as far as the sexual harassment bit is concerned, so you mentioned that the first set of laws came out in 2010, and then
Yeah, the
eventually it went
workplace.
through.
Yeah, at the
Right, the
workplace. Yeah,
workplace law, yeah.
yeah.
And then eventually in later on in the years to come, it went through a change as well. So was there any kind of a trigger or a reason why in the first place the law came out in 2010? And then was there a reason for those amendments as well?
So in 2000, it's slightly sort of political as well, because in 2010 the government that was in Pakistan, it was the Pakistan People's Party, and they've always sort of historically had a stronger women's grassroots sort of activist base as well. So I think that it was just part of the sort of general movement that there should be a law for the protection of women at workplaces. And because previously, although it was covered in the PPC, but what this law does is that it provides a mechanism to the organizations or the employees to deal with it internally as well, because in some cases a lot of bigger organizations already have policies in place, but this law sort of mandates that you should have one in place. And then, even so, if the organization doesn't, then there is a state body which is there, which you can complain uh, before. And then the change happened. There was a case of an artist who had alleged that another artist had harassed her at I believe it was sort of a concert practice session or something like that. And when she filed her complaint before the ombudsperson in this regard, the case was initially dismissed because it was held that that was not a place of work, which obviously was quite disheartening. And to see that for her it was her place of employment. So then there was advocacy in that regard, and then the definition was uh, broadened to include virtually everyone, as I said before. So yeah.
And when you say everyone, you mean that all genders, including men as well as
Yes.
trans folks, everyone
Yeah,
gets covered.
so the definition of the person who would be harassed was just made to be a person rather than woman or man, which is a much broader term. And obviously, there is yet to be. It was only recent. It was in 2021. So interpretation of the law and all of that also takes time sometimes. As issues come up before courts, there is more debate on it, more discussion. But on just reading the provision, it does include everyone.
Understood. And you also mentioned, I think, three things. One was that there is a committee as well,
Yeah.
where and organizations can constitute those and complaints can be handled by that body.
Yes.
You also mentioned a state body.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned about an ombudsman. So,
the the
it's
the ombudsperson is who I was referring to, that the state actually has some kind of
okay, a
involvement in
body
it.
to
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
understood. So as a person, then I have the option or the choice to go to the committee itself within my organization, or I can choose to go to the state body also. Is that how it is?
Yeah, but if you go to the ombudsperson, obviously, they will assess whether or not you could have also gone to your committee within your organization. And then, if you're able to obviously establish that, whether there wasn't a committee, or um it wasn't able to resolve it or something like that, then they will accept your case as well.
Ah,
Otherwise, they may also direct your organization to actually have a committee or proceed, but that's a very case to case basis thing.
understood. Understood.
Yeah.
And as far as different kinds of work structures are concerned,
Yeah.
does this law also cover students and the higher education system?
Yes, it does actually. When the definition was amended, they have added students specifically, that it shall include students as well.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
And
So
sorry, go on. Go
sorry,
on.
just clarifying that it is specifically provided that students will be covered.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of the actions that can be taken as well. So I'm just thinking that if at all it's somebody who has filed a false complaint, let's say, it can, I mean, eventually it turns out to be, like a false complaint.
Yeah.
Or if somebody is a student who has filed a complaint. So are there different kinds of actions or punishments that can be taken depending on the kind of a complaint, that comes up?
So there is a specific provision in that law that, for example, firstly, just for filing a complaint or just coming to the committee with that kind of complaint, there is a prohibition that you cannot take any adverse action against the person. Um, and I believe that if it's a false, there is no specific provision that states that if it is a false complaint, then how do you deal with it? So it's more like the process will run in this way, that there will be an investigation, and if they say that no, there was no harassment, then the matter ends over there. Then there is no adverse consequence to the person against whom the complaint was filed, obviously, because they will say that there was no harassment, and neither would there be an adverse consequence for the person filing the complaint. um, Under this law, that is, of course. But otherwise, if an employer obviously chooses to terminate that employee for filing a false complaint, because that might then come under their general rights as an employee, as an employer. But under this law, there are no penal consequences for a complainant.
Okay.